G'day and welcome to Not Just a Sports
Welcome
Report.
to Not
and more
Just a
specifically,
Sports Report.
Today we are getting back to the road to the NRL finals. Going to be going through the Friday night games on this episode. Sharks up against the Knights with top 4 implications, and you've got the Roosters who are in the top 4 themselves up against a Melbourne Storm without their star halves and fighting for their season. A couple of massive games to get into. But before we do that, we're going to start today with news and views. A couple of pieces of news that have come out since I last recorded. We've got 4 pieces here, and we'll start with Mitch Kenny. Massive news being reported by Code Sports. Mitch Kenny is going to be sticking around at the Penrith Panthers at a time where this club is really transitioning into what is a new chapter. Mitch Kenny, he is going to be sticking around. Of course, we know the success that the club has had, but they are heading in to quite a difficult period. Now, over the years, we have seen a lot of change, whether it was Jerome Luai leaving, James Fisher-Harris, Stephen Crichton, Matt Burton, Viliami Kikau, Alpi Coruscant. The list goes on and on. They've continually lost big names. In fact, this was the season, 2026, for the first time in what feels like forever, that this team has come into the season without losing a genuine staple of their success. Now, there is going to be more changes than ever potentially on the horizon. Of course, Ivan Cleary, next season will be his last as coach, at least at the Panthers. Peter Wallace will be taking over. So there is a massive period of change. As of November 1st, Nathan Cleary, Liam Martin, Isaiah Yeo, Brian To'o, all fair game on the open market, and you would have to assume at least one of them's going. Now, with the success that this club has had and these players have had, it feels right for at least a couple of them to go and get the biggest payday of their career and really maximize on the success that they have had. Now, some you would imagine will stay true to Penrith. They will stick around. Others, and you cannot begrudge them for it, will go and earn the money that they've probably honestly missed out on by choosing to stay at Penrith and having that success. So yes, we've seen changes to the Panthers, but the biggest changes are yet to come, from the coach to potentially some of their biggest names. And amongst this period of change, Mitch Kenny is going to be sticking around. So for the Panthers, that is massive. It is being reported he'll be staying until the end of 2031 as well. So that really locks the club in as far as their direction. Mitch Kenny has really had a lot to do with their success as well. Started off essentially playing a front row position off the bench, waited for his opportunity behind Alpi Coruscant, and since getting that spot has never looked back as the club's dummy half. So Mitch Kenny, the club did not want to lose him, and they haven't. Massive news that Kenny will be sticking around. Huge for the Panthers, huge for Mitch Kenny. And the question's going to be, once November starts, there's going to be a feeding frenzy. How is everything going to play out? You've also got Moses Leota, who could very well be on his way out as well, and already has permission to negotiate with rival clubs. So amidst all of this, look, it is one less headache for Penrith to have to worry about. Mitch Kenny not even going to the market in November. He is re-signed, and that is really stabilising for this club, who are front runners for the premiership this season, no doubt. But they want to keep it that way. They're not looking to, in the next couple of years go through a full rebuild, I don't believe. I think if they can, they want to keep as much of this powerhouse together as possible. So yes, they may lose a couple of massive names, but Mitch Kenny, one of the hardest working guys in their entire squad, he is going to help to lead this club forward into the Peter Wallace era that's coming up in a couple of seasons. Also, dummy halves. There aren't a lot on the market, to be quite honest. I think it's one of the trickier positions to fill. Now, yes, they do have Billy Scott, very talented youngster, coming through. But I think when you look across the competition, there are some elite nines, but they're all locked down. I don't think Blake is going to be leaving Cronulla. Wade Egan looks like he'll stay at the New Zealand Warriors. Arpi looks like he's sticking around at the Tigers. I would be surprised if Harry Grant is going anywhere. So really right now, as far as the top level dummy halves in the competition, you've also got Owen Patty at the Raiders. They'll be looking to lock him down. But I think it's a tricky position to fill. I know all the time there's going to talk about halfbacks and potentially a lack of them in the game being developed. I think dummy half is a really tricky position to fill. You look at the Perth Bears right now, it's looking like maybe Tyron Wishart, maybe Tyson Smoothie. For PNG, well, they were looking at Mitch Kenny. Now, who do they turn to? Maybe Peter Mamazelos. But ultimately, I think it is a really tricky position to fill in your roster. It might not be the hardest one, but I think for Penrith, it is crucial that they've been able to lock down Mitch Kenny in such a key role. So massive for the club, massive for the player, and yeah, good news all around, except for PNG, who reportedly were after Kenny. Speaking of Penrith, it's also been spoken about Ray Stone. According to Wide World of Sports, Ray Stone could be in the Panthers' sights. Absolutely love this signing. Supposedly it would be a 1-year deal. I think it would be great for Ray Stone, who at the moment, he's in a Dolphins squad that has more forward depth than potentially any side in the competition. Whereas you go to Penrith, especially coming up if they lose a couple of these forwards, Ray Stone is someone that you can just plug in. Anytime you call upon him, he will not let you down. And I think earlier this year, there was quite an underrated retirement. Excuse me, I got a corn chip stuck in my throat. Matt Eisenhuth. Give me a second here. Am I going to keep rolling? Fuck it. I don't want to stop and start again. Ray Stone. Matt Eisenhuth retired earlier this year. Now, he actually never played in one of their winning grand finals, but he was involved in every season, Matt Eisenhuth, that when the team needed him, he would come in as an experienced forward, would get the job done, roll up his sleeves, and get through the tough work, no questions asked. And when it was time for him to step aside and let one of the other young guys come in and experience grand final success, he just did. So Matt Eisenhuth, a very selfless player, retired earlier this season. For me, Ray Stone can fit that kind of mold, where he comes in and whenever he's called upon, he will not let the club down. Potentially there'll be times where he doesn't make the team, maybe one of the younger guys like Luron Patea that they're trying to promote through the ranks will be ahead of him, but you know anytime Ray Stone gets called upon, he will not let anyone down. Also, Scott Sorensen leaving the club at season's end, Liam Henry leaving the club at season's end, so there will be openings as far as their team, especially with a 6-man bench now. So I love the idea of Ray Stone going to Penrith. I think for Ray, he's a player that just busts his backside. It's good for him to go to a club and really have a red-hot crack at success here. Not that he's not doing that at the Dolphins. And for Penrith, like, this isn't a signing that's going to cost big bucks. This is a very much value for money signing where Ray Stone plays way above his pay packet. So Penrith reportedly looking at Stone for 1 year. Absolutely love that. Kurt Capewell. As a Warriors fan, I was stoked to see Kurt Capewell. He has re-signed with the Warriors for 2027. I think very much deserved. He has been massive for the club, not just on the field, I think off the field as well. He's shaped as a great mentor for guys like Jacob Laban, Leka Halasima. We've got Kalis Fatialofa. Bishop Neal, definitely a star of the future, but you know, having Capewell stick around for a further season is perfect. We've got the young guys coming through. We don't need to put so much pressure on them right now. Kurt Capewell, he's still an Origin player. I know he didn't have a great Game 3, but he's played at the highest level. He's also experienced premiership success at the Penrith Panthers. And yeah, I think Kurt Capewell definitely deserves to stick around at the Warriors. As a fan of the club, I'm stoked. I think he's been really, really good as far as what we've been building. And I think beyond next season, from 2028 onward, Jacob Laban, Leka Halasima, they're going to well and truly be ready. And Bishop Neal, amongst so many players in our squad, I don't know if there's a player that I am more excited about than Bishop Neal. Now, he's still a little while off first grade, but probably after next season, it'll be time to start getting him amongst the action. So Kurt Capewell, he bridges that gap, and it's not like he's just a journeyman. He is still playing at an elite level. So love that signing. I think it is perfect for what the Warriors are building. It allows extra time for player development, and it keeps a really key, experienced leader within our squad. Love Kurt Capewell, and honestly, for some things that he may not have talent-wise and natural ability where he may lack, he never lacks on effort. As the game gets tougher, he just competes harder, and I love that about Kurt Capewell. So yeah, really keen to see him stick around. And it's not to say he's just a toiler. He is very talented. We've seen him come up with chip and chases at origin level in the past. He's filled in the centres. But ultimately, I think the plan is very clear. Kurt Capewell holds it down next year. We continue, hopefully, to compete for premiership. I was going to say premierships, but we've never won one. But the goal, of course, is to win one. And then I think in the not too distant future, we got a lot of young back rowers that we're going to be looking to promote. So love that, Kurt Capewell, bloody oath. And the last piece of news, PNG targeting Zac Lomax. It's been reported by Code Sports. Zac Lomax, apparently Melbourne, had another bite at the cherry. Zac Lomax turned them down. He said he's going to stick around at the Western Force and fulfill his contract. Shock horror. I also think that gives him an outside chance, potentially, at a World Cup next year with the Wallabies, which I certainly think would be enticing for an athlete of his calibre. Again, PNG just outshining the Perth Bears. Again, like, we're talking about PNG targeting him. He lives in Perth. He lives in Perth right now, and still the Bears are nowhere to be seen in this conversation. Not sure what's going on. Maybe Mel Meninga feels threatened by him. I don't know. But after turning back the Melbourne Storm, saying he's not interested, he's going to stick around at the Force. Papua New Guinea. Timing-wise, this could make a lot of sense. World Cup next year for rugby union. Papua New Guinea come in the following season. Lomax, of course, we know what he's accomplished in rugby league. And gee whiz for the Chiefs. Alex Johnston on one wing, Zac Lomax on the other. He also offers goal kicking. He offers a lot. I know that there are some people who, don't think highly of Zac Lomax, but for PNG, this would be an elite signing. So I'm not going to fully break this one down because, to be honest, after this season so far, I'm a little bit Zac Lomaxed out after the court case and everything that was going on earlier and NRL trying to keep him, and I'm still a little bit Zac Lomaxed out. So we will wait and see. That's what we're going to do with this one. If it happens, definitely something to talk about. Would be massive for PNG with this excellent squad that they're building. And look, Zac Lomax is an unbelievable player. I would love to see him back in the NRL. For me, though, right now, we will cross that bridge when it comes to it. I am fighting tooth and nail to get through 2026. I'm not really thinking in depth about 2028 right now. So that's the news and views at the moment. Mitch Kenny sticking around at the Panthers. Ray Stone could be on his way to the very same club. Kurt Capewell, he is once again going to be a Warrior next season. And PNG, could Zac Lomax be another star signing for the Chiefs? We've got an absolute belter. Friday, 6 p.m, the Cronulla Sharks in 4th, hosting the Newcastle Knights in 5th. Winner, well, they really solidify themselves for a potential top 4 finish, which is exactly where you want to be to really have a crack at the premiership. So this is a massive game. Cannot wait to see how it plays out. You have the Sharks, who I think the expectation is that they should certainly be in the mix this season, and the Knights, who I think have exceeded expectations this season under Justin Holbrook. So let's get into the game. Last time they met was last year. So look, Sharks won 40-16, but that was a Newcastle Knights team that were dreadful, that finished dead last, had a whole different coaching team. This is a different season, so I don't take a lot from the last time they met, but certainly Sharks with a good recent record. Coming into this one, you want to talk about a good record. Nicho Hynes, the key stat coming into this one, he is 7 from 7 up against the Newcastle Knights, has not lost to them, an unblemished record up against Newcastle so far. So watch for Hynes in this game. He will be confident and he'll be certainly looking to take the Knights' defensive line on a lot. I think he'll be running the football. I think he's going to be proving a constant threat. And he's got someone outside him in Britton Nicola returning from Origin duties. They can also run a very strong line. So I think Hynes, he's going to be asking a lot of questions of the Knights, given that, look, he's never lost to them. He'll be very confident. Also, congratulations to Matt Croker. He will be playing his 100th NRL game. All games for the Newcastle Knights. And I think this year, he has really leveled up in terms of his performances. Now, focusing on the Sharks' premiership picture. This is something I'm going to talk about with each team, given that the theme of this podcast now is road to the finals. And what are you trying to get to the finals for? To win the premiership. So how are things looking for the Sharks? My question is, are they peaking at the right time? Last season, it wasn't overall like the best regular season, but I do remember last year, coming toward the finals at about this point, the Sharks really elevated their game and they were playing their best football at the right time of year. It took them all the way to a preliminary final. Unfortunately, that was as far as they got. But I think Craig Fitzgibbon and this team are working out on this journey toward a premiership. They're working out, when to peak and how to get that peak performance at the perfect time of year. Now, coming into the run home now, 66-0 against the Dolphins suggests to me that once again Cronulla are saving their best football in another regular season that overall has been patchy. There's been great moments, there've been pretty poor moments, but now coming in to the most important part of the season, it looks like we're going to get the best version of Cronulla. Now, if you listened to my pre-season podcast where I went through every team individually, broke down their seasons, you would know Cronulla Sharks, look, I picked Penrith to win. Sharks were the other team. I was seriously considering picking Sharks to win the premiership this year. I've been doing that pre-season series for a number of years now, and each season it kind of built naturally as far as my theme around the Sharks. And last year where they made the prelim final, my theme for that season, the couple of years prior to that, they were making finals, they were looking like a top 4 team. They finished second one year with Hynes winning the Dally M, but they were getting immediately bundled out of finals. So the kind of next step in that journey was to first win some finals games. They were able to do that. My theme going into last season was to compete for the premiership. Not to win it, but to genuinely compete for it. I think they did compete for it. They were in the final 4. I know they didn't make the grand final, but for me that was a pass mark, that they were genuine competitors for that premiership. This season, the theme was to win it. That is the pass mark now. I think Sharks have reached that point that they've been building toward, where the realistic pass now is winning, and anything short of that I think falls below the expectations that they have set for themselves. So that was the theme going into this year. I felt like for Cronulla, the next step in their premiership evolution was to really go hard for it this year, especially when you consider who they're losing next season. A stack of players, especially in the back line. So if there ever was a time to really go for it, that is this season. So for the premiership picture, Sharks are firmly in the mix. They're not the front runners, but for me, my pick for the grand final this year was Panthers Sharks. I have a very high opinion of their capabilities. And look, for most of the season, they weren't really at the forefront of this premiership race, but just quietly over the last month or so, they've risen up the ladder. They're coming off a huge win. Now they're in the top 4, coming into this run home where I believe they're saving their best performances. So premiership picture, Sharks are right in it. As I said, Outside of Panthers, Sharks were my pick this year. I was very close to actually going for a Sharks premiership win. Just a bit easier to trust Penrith than it is Cronulla. Now, recent form, Sharks are coming into this one, back-to-back victories to their name, 66-0 against the Dolphins. Unbelievable. We know how dangerous the Dolphins can be. Sharks made it look easy. It was a masterclass from the halves. Braden Trindle, I think this has been his best season to date. And Nicho Hynes was unbelievable. Set a club record 30 points scored in that game. So they're humming at the moment form-wise. Before that game against the Dolphins, they had a win against the Broncos, and they've actually won 6 of their last 7. So it didn't really feel like Sharks were making a ton of noise in the premiership race. It was quite subtle up until that 66-0 victory, but now they're in 4th position. They need to be considered very seriously in this premiership race. As far as their side of this game, the coaching addition. Midway through the season, Freddie Michalak, I believe his name is. I spoke about him in the pre-season preview as well. A French rugby union icon as a player, has been involved as an assistant at the Sharks previously, returned to the club, wasn't there at the start of the year, had to fulfill commitments as a coach over in France for rugby union. But since he's touched down in Australia, he's been working very closely with the halves, and look at how Trindle and Hynes played on the weekend. So that's something that isn't really getting spoken about, but I think could be the Sharks' secret weapon surging towards September is this French coach in Michalak, and the halves right now hold the keys to the Cronulla side. They have a great forward pack, they have strike in the back line. It's going to be up to the halves to execute, and right now, honestly, I think coming toward this final series, we are getting the best version of this Trindle and Hynes combination that has had some time to grow. So very excited to see how the halves take this one on. You've also got the Origin stars back, Britton Nikora, Adam Fanua-Blake, who I think is going to be massive in this game, taking on a Knights pack that will be without Jacob Saifiti, and Blake Brayley, who has been phenomenal as well. His craft around the ruck, he's always going to be dangerous. He offers an extra creative threat as well that I think does take some of the burden off his halves to be the constant players creating opportunities. Brayley equally is dangerous. So right now, I think Sharks, as a whole, with this team that they have, with the form that they've worked themselves into, are in a really good position here. Let's have a look at the Newcastle Knights. Now, they are coming off a very close loss up against the South Sydney Rabbitohs in their last performance, going down by just 2 points. Looking at the premiership picture, well, fingers crossed, Newcastle at the very least are finals bound. It's looking like, unless they have an almighty drop-off, they are going to be there in September. Right now, though, the question is where? The Knights are contending for a top 4 finish, and this could be potentially the most pivotal game, trying to lock down that spot up against a team directly above them. So for the Knights right now, the sky's the limit. They win this game, that could give them the confidence and the belief to really go on with it. Now, are Newcastle a genuine premiership threat? I lean toward no. Still, what they've done this season is unbelievable. I lean toward no. But if they finish in the top 4, they're a chance. You get the double chance. You also really are in a prime position to go and win it. So I would say no, they're not a genuine premiership threat, but I am very happy to be proven wrong. And if they can lock in a top 4 spot, never say never. Now, anyone who's listened to Not Just a Sports Report for long enough would know I harped on for an eternity, it felt like, Justin Holbrook. Anytime there was a coaching vacancy, I consistently said, this is a guy a club needs to sign. He is a quality coach. I don't know why Titans ever let him go. He also has a track record at coming into a proud club and getting them back up and running. Did it at St Helens to the best possible outcome, where they became a premiership powerhouse. Now he's come to the Knights in just one season. They are a totally different outfit from the sluggish, struggling team we saw last year. So Holbrook, he deserves a massive rap as coach. I think he will be in the mix for Dally M Coach of the Season, and I think Knights have absolutely got their man. So with Holbrook as coach, honestly, I'm not writing the Knights off. As far as the premiership picture, they wouldn't be in my top handful of teams, but they could be like a genuine dark horse that people don't take them as seriously, and come finals, well, they dish out some massive, massive lessons. So massive opportunity here for the Knights. Their fans will be very excited. As far as the game, all eyes are going to be on the big guns. Kalen Ponga, he is the one that the fans will be looking for throughout the game. Dylan Brown, the star signing this season, they are the two most influential players. You've obviously got Fletcher Sharp as well, very dangerous. But Kalen Ponga, who's been playing as like a second halfback, and Dylan Brown. I mentioned Cronulla's halves having a massive part to play here. Well, KP and Dylan Brown, they are the ones for the Newcastle Knights who will be tasked with executing. Now, it's going to be a bit more difficult for them in my estimation. Cronulla, they are stacked with middle forwards. I think they're going to be rolling straight through the middle. For Newcastle, no Jacob Saifiti. So the opportunity and the responsibility here for Trey Mooney, Tyson Frizzell, Matt Croker, and a couple of these younger guys, they're going to have to match it with the Sharks up front. Because Ponga is unbelievable, Dylan Brown is a world-class player, but I think if Cronulla are just too easily marching forward and Newcastle just can't get that momentum, Ponga and Dylan Brown, it makes their job exponentially harder. Whereas right now, with the way Sharks are going, if they are on the front foot, Trindle and Hines, they're going to ride that wave of momentum. And they have been. You saw against the Dolphins. And this season, more than potentially any season ever, momentum, once you've got it behind you, you're on. And it's very hard for the opposition to stop. So for me, Knights, the real responsibility is going to be on their middles. And it's going to be tough because Sharks, Oregon Kaufusi, Tom Hazelton were unbelievable last weekend. You've got Fanua Blake. You've also got Blake Brayley around the ruck looking to exploit tired defenders. So for me, that's really where I think Sharks have a massive edge and where Newcastle are going to have to aim up to be able to bring guys like Ponga, Dylan Brown into the game. Fletcher Sharp, the running half as well, he is someone that can break the game wide open. But again, if Knights are on the back foot, it just becomes harder for someone like Sharp to do what he does best. Speaking of best, Bradman back in the centres. That is massive, coming off a huge performance in the Origin Arena. They've got their best backline. Like Gagai, he has been phenomenal this year. Bradman best, we know what a game breaker he is. Marzu and Young on the wings. For me though, to bring all of these threats into the game, it has to start up front. Now Dylan Lucas, he is another very key player. For me though, I've harped on it enough already. I think Sharks through the middle, this is where this game is won. I think Hazelton really puts a dent in the defensive line. Adam Fanua-Blake, we know how dangerous he is. If he even gets one opportunity to free up the arm, get an offload, then Sharks, they're just going to roll downfield. Second phase play, they've got enough strike. Guys like KL Ero and Will Kennedy, who's been great lately. And then you throw in the class of Hines and Trindle, who have a lot of confidence. You have Blake Brayley, who also now, I think, is more confident than he has ever been. And yeah, like I said, with the Sharks, I really think they are firmly in the mix to have a crack at the premiership this year. Whether they win it or not, I'm not sure. But I think what I've seen with Craig Fitzgibbon in this side, I think they have slowly over the years learnt what it's going to take. And last season, we saw them peak at the right time, but fall short. This season, I think they can peak at the right time. And who knows how far they can take it. So it all starts up front, through their middles, and then on the back of some class in the spine. I am going to be taking the Cronulla Sharks. Friday night, the Storm look to keep their dream alive up against a Sydney Roosters side that right now are in third position on the ladder, certainly with intentions of going all the way this season. We'll start with the Roosters, who are the home side here, and they actually played the Storm. Feels like literally just a couple of weeks ago, coming off one of the Origin games down in Melbourne. Storm won 18-4 on that occasion. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. Having a look at the Roosters side, a couple of things that stick out to me. No James Tedesco, so Cody Ramsey keeps his spot at fullback. Robert Toya in the extended reserves, looking to come into this game hopefully. If not, Hugo Savala, Mr. Fix-It, is in the centres. Other than that, pretty much looks like business as usual, and keen to see Mark Nwanganita-Wase, who can certainly always provide the big highlight play. Now, for the Roosters, as far as the premiership picture, they are top contenders. I've mentioned my pre-season preview series already. Well, the theme with the Roosters that I spoke about was top 4. Because, look, in this run home, traditionally, this is when the Roosters do their best work. But there have been seasons recently where, despite being the form side going into finals, they haven't been in the top 4. It's left them with too much to do, and unfortunately for them, they haven't been able to go all the way. Now, look, sitting third, like, if their best form is still ahead of them, they are certainly one of the biggest threats, if not the biggest threat, to the Penrith Panthers and their premiership ambitions. So premiership picture, Roosters certainly are in the top handful. And recent form, 3 straight wins heading into this one. So they've worked themselves into some winning form. Now they're going to look to really click into gear and start playing what soon will be September football. As far as the game itself, in the forward pack, Naufahu White has been incredible this season. He's one that I think is constantly going to be a handful for the Melbourne Storm to deal with. He can create second phase play with his offloads. And if you're able to contain Naufahu White, you've got Spencer Leniu running just full pace right at the line, trying to run straight over the top of you. So the aggression of Spencer Leniu and really the skillfulness, especially with a bit of ball playing from Naufahu White, through the middle, Storm are going to have a lot to contend with. Throw in Victor Radley, certainly great ball player, through the middle as well. You get Connor Watson, who can come on, add some impact. For me, as far as the forwards to watch, the one that stands out is Naufahu White. I think he is going to be in for a massive game. For the Melbourne Storm, against the Roosters, I would say the biggest danger for the Chooks would be the Storm's halves, both of whom are out of this game. So Harry Grant does become the biggest danger, but for me, Roosters, this is a game that they should not lose. Doesn't mean that they won't, but with no Munster, no Jerome Hughes, Roosters, given that they want to compete for the premiership, they should be all over this game. Cherry Evans, Sam Walker, coming into the season, a lot of talk about how their combination would play out. Would DCE be able to take a back seat? And honestly, this season, as time's gone on, it hasn't even become a talking point. They have gelled very nicely together. Cherry Evans has been the perfect foil for Sam Walker, who's since gone on to star in the Origin arena and has played some amazing football. So there hasn't been any issues as far as the combo. And honestly, at times this year, he's not playing here, but James Tedesco has probably taken on more of a playmaking role than ever before. So with Munster and Hughes out, this game is there for the taking. Cherry Evans has the experience. He has the kicking game. He's someone that knows what it takes to beat the Storm. During his time at the Sea Eagles, those clubs had a massive rivalry. And Sam Walker, who honestly did not have a great game last time these sides met, I think he'll be up for a big one here as well. So, look, Roosters, I think they should get this one done. But Melbourne Storm have a lot to play for. It has been a tough season. Xavier Coates gone for the whole year through an Achilles injury. Ali Katoa and that situation. Ryan Pappenhausen. Even the heavyweight champion. Bloody hell. Nelson Asofa Solomona. So across the board, for Melbourne, it has been a tough year. A very, very tough year. There's also the issues with Craig Bellamy and his health and questions around whether this could be his last season. Sucks to see Bellyache, just a legend of the game, and he's given so much to the game of rugby league and to this club, the Melbourne Storm. So firstly, you just want Craig Bellamy to be healthy, happy, everything to be good on that front. But to think this could be the end of the line as far as Bellamy's time at the Storm, at least in a head coaching capacity, very much the end of an era. It is a new look Storm team, and not just with the way they line up, but we've never seen a Storm team this vulnerable. Other than 2010, every single year, they are right there in the premiership mix. This season, top 8 looks beyond them, unless they go on a huge winning run, and now no Munster for 4 to 6 weeks, Jerome Hughes not available here. It feels like this could be the game where the season kind of comes to a close. So having a look through their side, Moses Leo back on the wing, Wishart and Trent Tolau in the halves. Oren Keeley, who's just arrived from the Dolphins, he slots straight into the back row. And you've got young Gabriel Satrick, who just re-signed with Melbourne, on the bench. So look, Storm, they're fighting for their season. They're up against a very, very high quality opposition. As far as Storm's premiership picture, they basically have to win every single game from here on out. And yeah, it looks like this will be the final season, or this will be, the season where they finally miss the top 8. So many seasons prior, we've had times where people have predicted this will be the time where Storm face a decline. This year, with everything that's on their plate, it's understandable. But yeah, it's also surprising, because this time of year is usually when Storm are working their way toward a premiership, or at least challenging for it. So first time in over 20 years that they haven't been right in the premiership mix. Massive, absolutely massive. Recent form, they beat the Titans, not very impressively though, getting by with just a couple of points. And yeah, Storm, they're just very vulnerable. Now, their backline, I think, has been one of the big weaknesses this year. They have stocked up for next year, even without Zac Lomax, Bronson Cherry, Jermaine Azarko. But for me in this game, the backlines, Storm need to aim up. Nick Meaney, he's off to Perth next year. Jack Howarth has been exposed defensively this year. Will Warbrick off to the Warriors. So there's a bit of change coming here at the Storm. And yeah, I just think at the moment their backline is an area where the Roosters can probably find some holes. Oren Keeley, massive addition. I think he is going to help to really shore up their edges defensively. And I had here in my notes that the Storm's spine is the key. Well, they're missing 50% of their spine. No Munster, no Hughes. I think that is a really huge loss. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Now, Farlongo has been huge this year. Harry Grant, we know how classy he is. For me, though, I don't think Storm can get it done. I don't. I would be happy to see it, but for me, the forwards have to aim up. They really have to take the fight to the Roosters. I look at their forward pack. Like, Utoika Manu's probably that guy that you would think can go head-to-head and really trouble the Roosters pack. But other than that, they're just like a hard-working pack. Josh King, Trent Loiero. I know Loiero's a rep player, but they're just guys that play their role. They work hard. They constantly make those effort plays, but I don't really think of them as players that have that kind of X factor, like someone like Naufahu White, like a Spencer Leniu, like a Victor Radley. I just think Roosters' pack have some real threats, whereas for me, Storm, their pack will work hard, they'll be in the fight. Love Cooper Clark, I think he's a talented player, but for me, even if Storm are winning that battle of the forward packs, then you've got Wishart and Tolau. I know Wishart has had some huge moments at this level. I just think, I know it's not a game played on paper, but I look at the Roosters lineup. I think their halves are going to be poised for a huge game. I think the Roosters pack offers far more X factor, which doesn't always win the games, but I think Storm, they'll be in the fight, but through those moments where you need to execute and come up with the big plays to get over the line, I just think they'll fall a little bit short. Whereas I think Roosters, even without Tedesco, when those opportunities present themselves, Sam Walker has shown this year he can take them. And Cherry Evans, as experienced as it gets, he's going to know how to play this one. For me, Roosters, their pack gets on the front foot and their halves really have a night out. So locking in my pick, we've got the Friday action done and dusted. I'm going to go with the Sydney Roosters. So that is it for today's episode. We've been through 2 massive games and some of the breaking news as well. Tomorrow it's going to be all about the Super Saturday action. We have got a triple header. Raiders up against the Rabbitohs. The Warriors hosting the Dragons. And in the Saturday night game, just trying to rack my brain. What is the Saturday night game? I guess we'll have to wait and find out. So that is it for today. Thank you for listening. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and most importantly, enjoy the footy this weekend.